Hello, everyone, and welcome. My name is Jeremy Leffler, and I work in the policy office at the National Science Foundation, and it's my pleasure to welcome you to another session of the NSF Virtual Grants Conference. Before we begin, we'd like to take a poll to find out a little bit more about you, and you'll only be able to access this poll if you're viewing this presentation from within the Zoom application. If you have questions during today's presentation, please submit them using the Q&A function at the bottom of your screen. And we're going to do our best to answer all of your questions in the time that we have today. However, do keep in mind that we have a lot of attendees for today's session, so it's possible we won't get to all of them. We are recording this session, and it will be made available on our website, nsfpolicyoutreach.com, in the coming weeks. And we'll be sure to send an email announcement once this and all of the other sessions have been posted. If you experience any technical difficulties during this presentation, please let us know in the Q&A and we'll get somebody to help you out. Thank you for participating in the poll. And I'm now pleased to present this session, which will cover proposal submission modernization and the transition from FastLane to Research.gov. This session will be presented by my colleague Stephanie Yee from our Division of Information Systems.
Hi, so welcome to the NSF Proposal Submission Modernization Update for the Fall 2002 NSF Virtual Grants Conference. So my name is Stephanie Yee, and I'm one of the project managers here at NSF. And I've been here about 15 to 17 years, and I've been working as the operations maintenance lead for Research.gov, FastLane, and the Grants.gov integration with NSF. So for today's agenda, we have an action-packed agenda here. I'm going to talk a little bit about the January transition from FastLane to Research.gov and some of the key dates and timeframes for you to keep in mind for. I'm also going to go into some of the decommissioning efforts we have for the FastLane functionality and some of those dates and timelines. I'm also going to go over some of our current capabilities and some of our most recent additions that we've added to the Research.gov system. I will be spending most of my time doing a live demo for you and showing you some of the features that we have implemented and talk a little bit about tips and tricks about submitting and preparing your proposal. I'll also go over some of our useful help guides, tutorials to help you get acclimated to the system, and also some of our resources to help you throughout your proposal preparation process. I will be going over our demo site and training opportunities that you have on the website, and also some of our resources for you to keep after this presentation. So first, I'll talk a little bit about the January 2023 transition from FastLane to Research.gov. So as you may have noticed, a lot of our NSF opportunities have been slowly but surely migrating from FastLane to Research.gov. We will be removing FastLane as a submission option from NSF by January 30th, 2023. This is in alignment with the new PAPG guidance that's coming out in January of next year. Currently, as of today, so today is November, more than 90% of NSF's funding opportunities are available in Research.gov. The screenshots you see in front of you is an example of what our solicitations look like and what our program descriptions look like. So at NSF, a lot of our opportunities are in the form of a solicitation, and that's the screen that you see on the left. And this is an example of a solicitation that has removed FastLane as the submission option. It will be at the top under important information and revision notes, and there's a paragraph there which we've blown up to be a little larger on the screen that references the important notice 147 that lets the community know that we are moving and transitioning to Research.gov. On the right-hand side is a screenshot of an NSF program description. So these are opportunities at NSF that do not deviate from the PAPG. Because they are standard formats for each of the PDs here at NSF, we couldn't make specific changes to only PDs that have moved over to Research.gov. So in order to accommodate that, every PD at NSF has a link on the right-hand side, which you can click and open, and it'll open up a PDF that breaks up all program descriptions at NSF by directorate. You can go to that directorate and find the PD that you're looking for. And there you can see there's going to be a column on the right-hand side, and it's a little small here, that tells you when the date will be effective for that opportunity to be a Research.gov only. By next year, however, all PDs will be Research.gov only. So this is an important slide, so please take this in. This is our slide that introduces the dates. So this is important FastLane decommissioning deadlines. So I'm going to start from the top. The last day to submit a new proposal in FastLane will be turned off Friday, January 27th, 2023, 5 p.m. submitters local time. The last time you can edit a FastLane submitted proposal in FastLane, so if you submitted a proposal today, for example, and you may need to do a proposal file update, or perhaps you need to do a budget revision, you can only do those in the system that you submitted the proposal in. So the last day to submit updates to a submitted proposal in FastLane will be September 29th, 2023, 5 p.m. submitters local time. We chose September 29th because that aligns very well with our government fiscal years. Our fiscal years run from October to September 30th. So this is timed perfectly to end with the fiscal year. The last row is the last day to view your FastLane proposal. So right now, we have not been deleting old in-progress proposal data or even old FastLane proposals submitted years ago. They are still in your account when you log into FastLane. However, we will be turning that off just because we are trying to decommission FastLane. So the last day to view these will be September 29th, 2023. Notice the timeframes. This one is at 11 p.m. Just a little insight to how we do software releases at NSF. We wait until 11 p.m. to turn off the server. So this is the time where you will have no longer have access to FastLane proposals. The next slide is in regards to supplements. So in FastLane, you can also submit a supplement to a previously awarded proposal. It's the same dates or very similar dates to what you saw before. The last day to submit a supplemental funding request in FastLane will be Friday, January 27th, 2023. And the last day to view or download FastLane submitted funding requests will be September 29th, 2023. Next, I'd like to go over some of the features of Research.gov proposal preparation. This is just a highlight of some of the things that we've been telling the community what will make their lives much easier when using Research.gov. So we're very excited about all these features, and hopefully most of you have seen these features already and would agree that it would make your lives a lot easier. So the interface for Research.gov is more modern. We have people here who specialize in usability. So we make sure all the screens are intuitive, they're dynamic, they are responsive to what you are doing at the time, they are relevant to the solicitation or opportunity you're applying to, and that it naturally flows. So the idea is Research.gov is more intuitive to use, and you don't need, extensive training to figure out how to use the system. We incorporated a lot of inline help features. So what that means is instead of memorizing a guide, FastLane has a very large PDF document with every, rule and screenshot imaginable. We have inline help instead. So anytime you see this blue eye icon on all of your pages, please hover over it. It's going to tell you something important that you need to know about that business rule, about that section, or about how to upload, and prepare that particular section. One other great improvement we've made is the faster upload time. So those of you who are legacy FastLane users are familiar with the 60 to 90-second uploads for each section. We have eliminated that, and the uploads are much faster, and the feedback is immediate. And I also want to stress the auto compliance checking. In FastLane, we were only checking approximately 50 checks in the system. So we were letting more things in that maybe should have been stopped. In Research.gov, we are doing approximately 550 compliance checks across all proposal submission types and a supplemental funding request. So this is very powerful in terms, if you're an administrator, you can feel at ease that we are checking and making sure these things are what they're supposed to be. And lastly, PDFs are not altered. So in FastLane, we had to take the PDF and redistill them. Sometimes the resolution of graphs or images are lost. In Research.gov, we are not touching that PDF. We're not restilling them. So the integrity of graphics and images are intact. So I'd like to go over some Research.gov proposal preparation reminders. Proposal information in FastLane and Research.gov are separate. They're individual. So what that means is you cannot prepare a proposal in FastLane and be able to transfer that or see that in Research.gov. They're two separate systems. Keeping that in mind, that will also apply to letters of intent or prelim proposals. If you created those records in FastLane, you will not be able to find or link them in Research.gov or vice versa. Same goes for separately submitted collaborative sets. Everyone needs to start and prepare their proposal in the same system. You can't have a mixture of some people in FastLane or some people in Research.gov. And also file updates. So as I mentioned earlier, if you submitted your proposal in one system, you have to follow through with any sort of updates to that proposal in the same system. And the last bullet is just to remind the community that the proposals are evaluated the exact same way. They look the same. So people are not, they will not be biased, or they will not be able to see any difference between whether or not you submitted in grants.gov, Research.gov, or FastLane. They are evaluated the same way. So this slide here is a lot of text, and I don't expect people to read it, but the left-hand side are current capabilities, and the right-hand side is what is still remaining. So as you can see, we're almost at the end. We have almost everything implemented that we need to in order to turn off FastLane. The two major things that are still outstanding are the grants.gov integration. So as of today, November, a proposal created and submitted in grants.gov is at its core a FastLane proposal. So if you submitted a grants.gov proposal in October or any time before November, it's in FastLane. So if you need to do a proposal file update, you need to take a look at it or make some changes to the budget, you will have to log into FastLane. We will be changing this on November 21st. So any grants.gov submissions after this date will be a Research.gov proposal. So please keep that date in mind. If you're an administrator, just know that if you have grants.gov submissions, you may be operating a lot in a world where you have to remember when you submitted that proposal and to know which system to go to. The last big item that we have left over are postdoctoral fellowships. So those have been implemented in May 2022, but this last remaining piece are ones that require reference letter writers. We only have 2 opportunities at NSF that fall into this category. So those 2 have not been released yet. Their deadlines are around this timeframe. So we hope to implement that in May 2023. All right, next I'm going to talk about recent Research.gov enhancements. So as of October 24th, Research.gov had rolled out supplements in our system. So we're operating right now where you can prepare and submit a supplement in both systems. So right now it is open in Research.gov and FastLane. I highly recommend that during this transition period, please take this opportunity to start your supplements in Research.gov. You can submit supplements to any award, regardless of which system it was originally submitted in. So if you remember before, there was a clear distinction between the 2 systems, but because supplements are from awards, you can create one regardless of which system it was originally submitted under. So we will be operating under two different systems where you can submit, in both, whichever you choose, but we will be turning it off for good January 27th, 2023. So in order to create a supplement, we will be adding it to the awards and reporting module. So if you look at the screenshot here, this is what it looks like when you first log into Research.gov. And if you have all the roles that you need, it's going to be under the awards and reporting. And I will show you more of this up close as we get into the demo. So this slide just lets you know we also have a demo site for supplements. So Research.gov has multiple demo sites. We have one for proposal preparation, but as part of this release, we also added a demo site for the supplemental features. Just like proposals, the features we have enabled in the demo site is to create and view in-progress supplements. At this time, we don't have the capability to experiment or have in the demo submitted supplements. Here, I'll also go through this on the demo. We have added the relevant FAQs and information about the supplemental funding requests in our help guides. And this is a small note. We have here at NSF something called SBIR STTR proposals. So they are small business innovation, small business technology proposals. They will be implemented for NSF for their next round of competition. So right now they are in the midst, or they just finished up their fiscal year 22 round of deadlines. So when the competition opens up for 2023, this will be done in Research.gov. So if you are involved with these types of proposals, and some of you will be, this will be enabled for Research.gov when it is released in 2023, when that competition is announced. All right. So we've gone through the slides, and I'm going to go ahead and transition to the live demo, and we will go through these features, and I'll give you a summary of everything we just talked about. All right, so here we are. I'm already logged into the Research.gov system. This is your desktop, so I'm going to make this a little smaller so you can see your desktop has 5 major boxes. Depending on your roles, you will see some of these. You may not see all of these. But we will be concentrating on this module here, proposals. I'm also going to orient you to how to find help. So if you are completely brand new to this system, if you look on the upper right-hand corner, you'll see these links called Help and About. This is something that I do recognize that we need to fix this. It's not working exactly the way we like. This help guide will take you to help, but not related to proposal functions. It'll take you to help related to awards, project reporting, or some of the ACMS features. What you want, if you want to look at help regarding proposal preparations, is About. Once you click on About, you'll see a list of Research.gov services. We have many. There is one bullet called Research.gov Supplemental Funding Request Preparation Submission and Research.gov Proposal Preparation Submission. So depending on what you're looking for, click on these and you'll see a page that looks like this. This is very useful. I highly recommend that you navigate to here and bookmark it. This is a great resource to anytime you make changes to the system, anytime we have new FAQs, this is where we will add them here. So I'm going to go ahead and go back to my desktop and show you the proposals. So as I mentioned before, we do have a demo site available to anybody with an NSF ID. So you do not have to have a PI role. All you need is an NSF ID, register that NSF ID, and you will be able to access the demo site as if you were a PI. So I went ahead and click on that button, and you're going to see a modal that warns you that you're going to a demo site. This is not production. And this is what it looks like. So you can only prepare new or look at in progress. There's not a capability right now to view submitted proposals. So I'm going to go ahead and click on this little drop down. And here you can see this is where I go to prepare something new. So here you can submit or prepare a new letter of intent, prelim proposal, full proposals, renewals, or accomplish-based renewal proposals. For simplicity's sake, I'm just going to stick with a basic full proposal. And you may or may not be presented with this modal. So Some of you may be associated with more than one organization, and you'll be able to select the organization you want to complete this application for. I have two associations, if you will. I work for NSF, so this is in my dropdown, but I've also registered myself as a fellow. So this is an individual. You're not affiliated with an organization. You would have to add this role as well if you are applying as a fellow. So that's why I have two options here. But as we all know, all solicitations at NSF are by affiliations with an organization. So I'm going to go ahead and select Next. You're taken to a Prepare Proposal wizard, and it is in 4 steps. The very first step you need to do is find your opportunity that you want to apply to. Always by default, you have the PAPG, which is up front, which is, you just want to submit a proposal to NSF. It's not in direct relation to a solicitation or opportunity. This is a dynamic search field, so you can type in the number or the text, and it will narrow down your choices for you. When I click Next, you are taken to step 2 called Where to Apply. This is where the proposal is going. Most of the time, solicitations only are going to one place, so you may not be able to choose anything on step 2. However, some solicitations may give you a choice of 1 to 2 or 1 to 4 places that the proposal will go to. So if that's the case, you would have some enabled form fields here to select your program. But most of the time, it's set. You can select secondary units of consideration or secondary places that you would like your proposal to be co-reviewed. You can select that at a later stage. So I will show you that in a second. Step 3 is your proposal type. So NSF has multiple proposal types. And if you want to know all of them and what they are, you can hover here and click and find out more. And it'll take you to the PAPG section that it relates to. But most of the time, people are selecting a basic research proposal. We do list them all here, but we won't let you click on one that's not applicable to the solicitation that you chose. So for example, here, the little hover text will tell you this is not available for the solicitation you chose. So the last and final step is proposal details. We are asking you, are you submitting by yourself as a single proposal with or without subawards? So that means only one proposal ID is generated. Or are you submitting separately with other organizations? And there are people who are leads and non-leads. For simplicity, I'm just going to select a lead. So I'm going to submit separately submitted proposals with a group of collaborators. And I'm going to go ahead and click lead. If you notice, my proposal title form pops up, but it's prepended by collaborative research. You cannot change this. This is on purpose. Research.gov has some predefined titles that we will put on if the proposal is, I wouldn't say unique, but special in some way from a basic single proposal. So for a collaborative set, we will always put this here. If you are submitting not a research proposal, maybe you're submitting a travel proposal, we will prepend travel to your title. So please be aware of that. That is something that we did not do in FastLane. So I'm going to go ahead and put in a test title here. You are unable to add some special characters. So you can add an exclamation point, but however, you cannot add other characters like this. And we will warn you before you create your proposal. All right, so I have just created my proposal, and this is what the screen looks like. Everything you chose in the wizard will be displayed up here. Your proposal actions are down here. This is where you might print it, delete it, share it with your organization. And then in the main section here are your sections. It's broken up by 2 sections. One is required and the bottom is optional. So depending on what type of proposal you selected or solicitation, this will vary on what is required or not. Because of how the compliance checks works in the system, unfortunately, once you select your type of proposal, you select your collaborative type, your solicitation, you can't change those elements after the fact. This is on purpose because we are doing a lot of business checks depending on how you answer those questions, 1 through 4. We can't allow people to start switching that in the middle of their applications. And that's because we validate these rules as you upload each section. We would not be able to do the same compliance checks if we allow people to switch these, crucial elements after the fact. The only thing you can change at this point is the title. So you can click here, edit. You can add a title. You can modify that. And then where to apply. This is where something you can change once you get here. So I'm going to go ahead and click this because this is something we have changed recently this year. So this is where your proposal is going. You can select any other, let's say your proposal might be relevant to another place. You can go ahead and select one or many programs here. So I'm going to go ahead and select, a couple of samples. And if you notice, as I add more and more items, the right-hand side gets longer and longer. So this is your saved selections of everything you selected. You can reorder anything that's beyond the primary place this proposal is going. So you see these arrows here, you can click on the up arrow and it'll move this up and down in priority. But notice in step number 2, there's no up arrow, and that's because you cannot change where ultimately this proposal goes to because you're applying to a solicitation that's going to one place. So you can rearrange the bottom here, but you can't overtake what's in place 1. So I'm going to go ahead and save the proposal. So all the choices I've made there will show up here on the header. All right. So the second thing I like to show and highlight is how to manage your personnel and how to manage your access. So I always recommend for anyone creating a proposal or starting a new proposal is to share your proposal with their AOR staff. This notifies your AOR office, your SPO people, that you have started this proposal, and then they can have access to it if you allow them. So once you get to this page, you can click on Change Proposal Access. And by default, no one can see it. Only the PI can see it. And this is where I just recommend allow edit access to your staff. It's up to you. This is a very personal decision of whether or not to allow proposal submission as well to AOR staff. Just be careful if you choose not to check this. Remember to check it when the proposal is being submitted. We've had cases where people forgot to do that and they went on vacation and they were unable to submit. So just be wary of this, that these settings must be made by the PI. All right, I'm going to go ahead and do that. And once I click that button, all the AORs, staff members will get an email saying that this is ready for them to look at and to edit. All right, I'm going to go ahead and go back, and I'm going to go ahead and click Manage Personnel. So this is where you might add people to your proposal, your co-PIs, your senior personnel, and even people who are in your organization to look at and help you manage this proposal. So on the screen here, I am the only prime organization. If you were to add organizations, you can do this here. I'm just going to keep this simple and stick to my own organization. And on this page is personnel. Here you can add co-PIs or senior personnel. And down here is other authorized user. So other authorized user is very useful. This was a similar feature in FastLane. This allows people other than the PIs to have access to the proposal that they may need to work on. So this is where you would add those people. I'm going to go ahead and click on Add Co-PI. So by adding co-PIs, you can add them by NSF ID or by email. For other senior personnel, you can add them by 2 ways. You can add them by NSF ID or email, just like PIs, or you can enter by personnel name. One thing to note, I'll go ahead and add my friend George here, is that you can't have, let's see, so this is a demo site warning, but in the real production site, it will let you know that senior personnel cannot get access to the proposal. So this is something just to keep in mind. Only PIs and co-PIs have access to the proposal. Once you search by NSF ID, you will see this person's name pop up. If they have multiple affiliations, you will see them here. Just select the one that you think is appropriate. So here I added George, and he is now a part of my senior personnel. All right. I'll go ahead and go back to the main proposal. All right. So I'm going to go by some of the sections that have the most questions at IT Help Central. And I'm just going to start a little bit with the cover sheet, and then I'm going to move forward to some of the most frequently called about sections. The cover sheet is pretty straightforward. It has very specific form elements asking you about durations, request a start date. So I'm going to go ahead and select a date and proposed duration. This particular opportunity, I just want to highlight, has a requirement that has a prelim proposal. So on this cover sheet, there's a section here very specific to this solicitation that this funding opportunity has a prelim proposal requirement. So if you remember what I mentioned before, if you submitted a prelim proposal in FastLane, you would not be able to find that prelim proposal in Research.gov. The two systems are different. Another scenario to consider, a lot of solicitations at NSF have multiple tracks. So you have one proposal number, but you might have two different tracks, maybe small institutions versus medium institutions. They have different requirements, different proposal section requirements, maybe different due dates. Or one would require a prelim proposal and one does not. Right now at NSF, our systems are not that sophisticated to determine the differences between tracks or the differences between whether or not you started in FastLane or not. So just one thing to note, this number will validate if the prelim proposal is a good number from Research.gov, but you don't have to enter something here. So this is on purpose. This is to accommodate tracks in case one requires it and the other doesn't. You don't have to enter it here. But you can't just enter any random number. We will validate against that. So I entered 1, 2, 3, 4, tried to click save. The system will let me know that that's not right. So of course, as I mentioned, it's optional. So I'm just going to go ahead and delete it and save it. So that's all I wanted to cover for cover sheet. I'm going to go ahead and click on my breadcrumb to go back to the main page, and I'm going to now step into project description. Make this a little bigger. So project description is a good section to go over because it has the most compliance checks compared to the other sections. But each of the sections, if you look over here, you can also navigate on the left side. I'm going to go ahead and click on references cited. The page is very similar across all the sections. It has a description of what section you're in, maybe a brief description of what requirements are there that's related to the PAPG, and then technical instructions down here. I want to highlight for every section that you have to upload, in the right-hand corner, there's going to be a gray box here. This is great because you will have, I would say, relevant information in the PAP guide, links to that particular chapter and section in the PAP guide. This is very useful because if you are working on the budget, you don't want to just go straight to the PAP guide and scroll through lots of pages. You want to go just to the budget section of the PAP guide. So this is, I think, a really good feature where you can click and just go to the section that you're looking for. Another feature we've added is that the funding opportunity that you're applying for will be here as well, and that way you don't have to go searching around for it. So for project description, we are checking several things, and some things we have suppressed for now. So we used to check for fonts and margins and line spacing. We have, at this moment, this is November 2022, we have suppressed temporarily fonts and margins. They will come back at some point after the transition from FastLane to Research.gov is over, but they will be coming back. We, due to feedback, has suppressed those for now, and we may be revisiting how we check for those, but we found some challenges in trying to implement that in a very standard way. We were seeing even differences within the same software and version. So for example, Microsoft 2016 will interpret a 1-inch margin differently than a Microsoft software that came out in 2022. So, in light of the feedback of how even the same software can interpret these things, we have temporarily suppressed them for now. But we are still checking for line spacing and for URLs and for section headers if they require it. So for project description, for example, here, we will be validating broader impacts. And remember, broader impacts must be its own header on its own line with no other text around it. So I'm going to show you what a validation error looks like. So I'm going to upload a document that has a clickable URL in it that is not allowed in the PAPG. So as you can see, I just clicked upload and my error message came back almost immediately. Your file contains a URL to a link, which is not allowed in project descriptions. I will talk a little bit about URL links. You cannot have in your document anything that looks like a URL or is clickable. So this is important. So if you have something that references www.website, that will be flagged, even if it's not clickable. So be wary of anything that starts with www, HTTP, HTTPS, that would be flagged as something that is potentially a link that would allow you to bypass the page limit. We also will stop any files that contains hyperlinks. So what trips people up a lot are citations and images. So just be careful about that. I know there's a lot of third-party citation software that sometimes people use to help manage their citations. Just be careful because the citations look normal to you. You know, they look like text on the screen, but when you hover your mouse over it, it actually is a clickable link to someplace else. So be careful with citations. If you're getting this error and you can't find it, please call IT Help Central. We can tell you what page it's on. But remember, you know, if it's really close to the deadline, that'd probably be hard to do just because everyone else is maybe calling IT Help Central as well. So just be wary, check your files often so you can catch these errors in advance to find them. Another issue we're finding is with people who are LaTeX users. So I just want to point out a resource. I'm going to go ahead and skip a tab a little bit. So LaTeX users had a lot of problems with headers being recognized and also hidden URLs. And I want to point this website out to you. If you Google GitHub NSF proposal LaTeX samples, you will find this page. This page was put together by volunteer program officers here at NSF. And we know that LaTeX packages are very specific to certain disciplines. So we have put up here 3 different samples that we hope would appeal to a broad variety of people, and a description of what these samples are and a sample PDF of what it looks like. The idea here is that people can reference these working templates to help troubleshoot their own. I'm not going to go over all these in detail, but as we get LaTeX calls in, we try to document their issue and then update the here of what are the common problems or the root causes we're seeing with LaTeX users. So for example, we see sometimes URLs are found even though you don't visually see them. How can I fix that? So this is a very good resource if you have people who are dealing with engineering, physics, mathematics. Those are the type of people who are more likely to use LaTeX as their source for their documentation. All right. I'm going to go ahead and upload a working file just so you know what success looks like. I'm just going to go ahead and upload this. All right. And I mentioned line spacing, and I do want to touch upon that because it is a commonly asked question. Arial 10, can I use Arial 10? The answer is yes. It is in the PAPG as one of the recognized fonts that you can use. But I would say one problem or issue or challenge, however you want to call it, for Arial 10. So this is an example of a warning. So warnings, this is across Research.gov. If it is yellow with a triangle and an exclamation point, it is a warning. It will not stop you from submission, but it's letting you know there's a problem that you may want to take a second look at. So Arial 10 is a problem because most software, Microsoft Word, any software, word processing software, will automatically space the lines in the document depending on whether or not it's a paragraph or whether or not it's text after a header. It is something that it is automatically done by the software you're using. We do have FAQs of how to fix that. But it's very manual. So people will have to open the document and force the line spacing page by page. You may not want to do that. That's a lot of work. But if you love Arial 10, that's how you proceed to get rid of the warning. My recommendation is to experiment with the other fonts that are also size 10. There are two others, Courier New and Palatino Linotype. You can also use as the font 10. They almost never receive this warning. So I would say experiment with the other types, but just know that that challenge is there. All right. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and jump into the budget just to show you what this looks like. So I'm going to click on budget. I'm going to click on National Science Foundation, and this is what it looks like. Just real quickly, if you have multiple years, most people have 3, 4 years, you can add as many years as you like. Just make sure you add what's appropriate for your solicitation. And if you saw there, I was able to remove the left-hand side by just hiding this menu, and you get a wider real estate. Some things to point out. We will only show you sections that's relevant to your solicitation and relevant for your proposal type. So this is very unlike FastLane, where we just showed you everything. But here we want to smartly show you things that you need to fill in. And it will show you the people that you've added. So if you remember, I added George as my senior personnel. He'll automatically be added to my budget. And just remember that, because as you add, move people, move them around, I highly recommend that if you are doing a little bit of changing people, I recommend you make sure you have your people the way you like it before you start on any of these sections. If you need to remove someone from your budget, you can always click Manage and remove them this way. And this will remove them all from the years of your budget. And as you enter fields in here, it will validate real time for you whether or not you've entered something incorrectly. And as you add numbers, it will automatically add this up. The most common question I get here is there an offline template? So in FastLane, there used to be a little template you can download and you can upload your budget. The answer is no. And also, will we do it? Probably not. And the reason we will probably not have an offline version of the template is because the power of the validations is on this page. An offline template is not going to know what kind of proposal you're applying for, what kind of solicitation, what kind of rules you're beholden to. So we really want you to take advantage of the power of this page. All the business rules are built into this form. So this is why having an offline template is not going to be as beneficial as using this page. All right. I'll go ahead and leave the budget page, and I'm going to go and jump into senior personnel documents because everyone has to fill this out. So for senior personnel documents, here we have it all in one place. So in FastLane, I believe the senior personnel documents were all over the place. It was hard to keep track of, but here all your people are in one place, and you can collapse all, or expand all, and see who is missing a document and what they need. I will highlight current pending and support. So there are, as you all know, there's 2 approved NSF formats for BioSketch and current and pending support. You can use the Science C version, or you can use the fillable PDF version. From a production support standpoint, I always recommend the Science CV version. And I know that the PAPG is going to a place where one day we will retire the fillable PDFs. So I highly recommend the community to start now in Science CV, get familiar with that platform to create your documents. From IT Help Central standpoint, all the tickets I get from current pending support and BioSketch are almost always the fillable PDFs. They're hardly ever the Science CV because it's already generated for you and it's beautiful and it uploads perfectly. The fillable PDFs are very, very problematic, and that is because everyone has their own software, preferred software to fill out PDFs. And sometimes that software can corrupt the PDF and it will no longer recognize that document is an NSF approved format. So just be careful about that. Also, the fillable current pending support is 27 pages long. Most people do not use all 27 pages. we have implemented last year a trimming feature. So if you are using the fillable PDF and you have a super large document, we will trim that document for you. I'll go ahead and demo that really quickly for you. I always recommend that if you are using the fillable PDF, that you triple check the file that has been uploaded. The trimming feature only works if you have uploaded a document that was not changed by another software. So here I see that 3 pages were uploaded, all the blank pages were trimmed, and I know it's good. Some problems with trimming I've seen is if you use a software that's not expected. So I know there's, for example, Dropbox has its own PDF editor. I don't think it's super widely used as Acrobat Adobe, but that will change some of the form elements of the PDF and it might produce some unexpected results. So I highly recommend that you double check and triple check your files when you upload this, but use ScienceDB if all possible. The last file I wanted to go over here is the COA form. So this is the only document in Research.gov that should not be uploaded as a PDF. It should be uploaded as an Excel file. So the most common thing I've seen that is a problem with this file, so I'll go ahead and upload a document with, let's see. So the power of this form is it will tell you which table, which column, which row contains an error. So this is really useful to use, and hopefully this will give you very specific instructions on what to fix on the COA form. Be careful about invalid characters. I'm going to zoom in a little bit. If you see here, it looks like a FI, but that's actually a FI character typed by Finnish keyboard, and that was an invalid character that took forever to find. I highly recommend that if you ever encounter invalid characters, just retype it with your keyboard, and that almost always fixes the issue. The other problem I'm seeing with COA documents are invalid date values. So just to show you really quickly a successful file, we have in most of the tables a date. Just make sure it is in a month, day, year format. It cannot intake text. You can't write present there. You can't add just a month and a year. It has to be month, day, and year in that format. So just be careful of that. If you don't put it in the proper format, it will cause the cells to be blank. So just like the other files, just make sure you triple check these files after you upload. All right. And all the other sections are pretty straightforward. And I wanted to also highlight to you, I'm going to switch gears a little bit to supplements. So that's something we've recently released. And I'd like to show you that very quickly. So I want to go back to my home page, and I'm going to go now to awards and reporting. So we have all these wonderful links here, notifications requests and supplemental funding requests. I'm going to go stick to the demo site. Again, everyone has access to the demo site. And this operates very similarly to the proposals. So I'm going to go ahead and click Prepare New Supplement. So remember, this is a post-award action. So if you are completely brand new, you don't have any awards with NSF, this will not be relevant to you. But if you're an administrator and you're working on awards, you may find yourself in a situation where you need to submit a supplemental funding request. So I am in a very similar wizard format in terms of proposal, but if you look here, there's only 2 steps, so not as many steps. So the first step is to select your award. So we will only show you awards. So this is, in the perspective of the PI, you will only see active awards listed here. Active and open awards. So I'm going to go ahead and click on the first award and click Next. And you'll be asked another question. Is this a career life balance supplemental funding request, or is it not? I'm going to go ahead and say yes, because saying it's a career life balance supplement has a little more information that you need to fill out. It's very similar to the non-career life balance, but I'm going to go ahead and do this just so you can see it all. So career-life balance, maybe an important person on your proposal needs to take a, family leave, and you need extra supplemental funding to maybe replace that person, or, have a tech perform some of the work while this person is on leave. So you have different sections here than a proposal, but very similar look and feel. You have your award number, your title, your award amount, current end date, and you have your actions. So supplemental funding requests work the same as proposals. The PIs can create it, prepare it, but the AOR ultimately still submits it. So here's the same deal. Share your supplemental funding request so your AOR office knows about it. I'm going to go ahead and grant, edit, and submit access to my people. And over on the right-hand side are your required sections. Very similar. You have your cover sheet, but some of the different sections here are, for this one, description of proposed support, duration of proposed support, and justification. So I'll go ahead and click on description. So it is what it's describing, very similar file upload format as the rest. I'm going to click on duration. So this is a little different. So duration of proposed support. So here you are asked how many months of duration you need for family leave or support personnel. So here you enter months, but you cannot exceed 6 months. So that is a business rule here. So 6 months is the max that you can enter, but you have to enter something. And then you also have to select a leave start date. So you cannot select, of course, any dates in the past. So I'll go ahead and select a date in the future. All right. So that is saved. I also want to show you the cover sheet really quickly. So the other thing you can change on the cover sheet is the end date. So a lot of times these supplemental funding requests might change the end date. So this will show you the current end date, which is December, and requested date. So how this differs from the duration form is that, suggested is 6, but you can go more than that, but it will warn you. So I just entered 7 additional months to be added to the proposal. That would mean it will push it to July 2023, but I'm getting a warning. It shouldn't exceed 6 months. Please see the PAPG for guidance. So this is helping you guide, through these steps to make sure you're not requesting something that you're not supposed to. All right. So that is our new feature. Again, this is available both in FastLane and Research.gov, but I highly recommend that people start in Research.gov and to get used to that. All right, that's all I wanted to show in the demo. I wanted to go back to the slides because we have a couple more slides to go over. Now that we have that demo, I want to talk a little bit about providing feedback and why it's important, especially during this time. So we rolled this system out in Research.gov over a series of years. The very first iteration of proposal submissions started back in 2018. So we've been doing this for many years and adding more and more features. Part of this iterative process is that we're looking for feedback from the community. We don't expect to get everything right at the first time. There may be something that is not quite working to what you're expecting, or maybe there's an enhancement that you would like to see. I like to point out there's something called a feedback button. It's on the bottom of it's at the footer on Research.gov on every page, and it looks like this. It's an orange feedback button. But also you will see the feedback button in all the demo sites. So it's at the top, so you can click on it. This is important because this does not go to IT Hub Central. This goes to our business office here at NSF, who helps us determine what things we need to work on or enhancements or needs of the community. So it's really important to provide feedback if you feel something is not addressed or you would like to see something that would make your life easier or reduce burden. Please feel free to submit in the feedback form. It is anonymous, so you can be as candid as you like, and we do read your feedback very frequently. And if we see a trend of people always giving feedback about one particular thing, we will address that. I talked a little bit about the demo site, but these are formal slides, so you can reference this later. So we have demos for Research.gov proposal preparation and supplemental funding. Anyone can see it, and this is a link to it if you just wanted to go straight to it. You do need an NSF ID to access it. This is the help guide that I was mentioning. I do have the link here on the slide. Go ahead and bookmark that. This is going straight to the proposal preparation and submission page. So we update this very frequently. Every release we have, we update it. I highly suggest anyone new or experienced to bookmark it just to see what kind of changes we have on it, especially after releases. I will highlight we are adding how-to guides. So these are more, if you don't want to go scour through a website, maybe you're a type of person that likes to have very quick guides at your desk on hand. These are here for you. So they are short. They're broken up by a particular functionality. So for example, how to add or remove an OAU user. If you click on it, it's going to be a very quick, colorful graphic documentation on how to do that. It's very quick. So this is really good to have, handy at your desk. And it's very visual and very pretty to look at. So this next slide, I alluded to this earlier, is the slide for resources for your LaTeX users. So this is the link. And then I like to touch upon other decommissioning efforts we have. So at FastLane, we do have a functionality called award documents. So that will be retired. So for you administrators, this is what it looks like on the left-hand side in FastLane. It's under Research Administration, award documents. November 21st, we are retiring this. It will be moved to Research.gov. It will be an award link under awards and reporting, and you will find it there. The other module that we are retiring is the organizational reports. So on the left-hand side, this is for administrators again. This is a report that lets you see continued grant. It's very small font. Continuing grant increments. That will also be moved to awards and reporting. So just look out for that. We will send out communications. We usually do that, before every release. So just be aware of that these things are moving over. This is a slide of just, consolidating some of the links I've mentioned and touched upon on earlier slides and in the presentation. And if you have questions, so remember, for program-specific items, contact your program officer. If it's technical, contact IT Help Central. These are their hours. They're very good. Send an email and call. And policy-related questions, please go to policy. And thank you for your participation today.
Okay. Thank you, Stephanie, and welcome back. We are going to move into the live Q&A portion of this. And let me, first off, before we get started, just thank Stephanie and her team and everyone who's been furiously typing out responses in the Q&A. So there have been a lot of responses there. So take a look at those. And we're going to try and get to a number of your questions. A number of the questions that have been asked were not necessarily about the Research.gov system, and we've tried to answer as many as we can. And let me start off the bat by saying we saw a number of questions about the ability for non-PIs to be able to initiate proposals. And we hear you, and we are discussing this internally. So we don't have an answer for you on that one right now, but at some point in the future, perhaps. Okay, so Stephanie, I'm going to go through some of the questions that we've marked to discuss live, and I'm sure that questions will continue to come in as we go. And for those on your team who are still helping out, please do feel free to continue to answer some of those questions that continue to roll in. So. First question is, will award and amendment documents that are currently viewable in FastLane be moved to Research.gov? So how should institutions access their recent and historical award documents?
Yes, and I might lean on Kevin and Rama to answer this, but yes, we will be moving all award documents from FastLane to Research.gov. You'll be able to access that under the, when you look at the dashboard, it's going to be under the awards box, which is in the middle on the first row. You'll be able to see those there. Kevin, can you specify the time when we will be able to see that link?
That will be effective Monday, but potentially if you were to go there Sunday, you would see it on research.gov. And I did see that someone else had asked a question on, will we show historical awards data? And the answer to that question is yes, we will.
Thank you.
Great, thank you. Question is asking, does research.gov allow for viewing the complete submitted and/or awarded proposal?
So you can see your submitted proposal in research.gov if you submitted that proposal in research.gov. If you submitted a proposal in FastLane, you would not be able to see that proposal itself with the sections in research.gov. You would have to go to FastLane to see those sections for that proposal. That's why the September 2023 date is important, because if you have a proposal that is recent, active, you may want to have a copy of that proposal and get that from FastLane. You will not be able to see, for example, the project description of a proposal submitted in FastLane in research.gov. So I don't know if that fully answers your question, but research.gov proposal, yes, you can see that in research.gov. If it was a FastLane proposal, you will not be able to see that in research.gov.
And we're going to continue in the new year to do quite a bit of outreach to people to remind them about the deadline for being able to access that information in FastLane through the end of September. Next question is, does research? Oh wait, we answered that one. Next one is there a way for an admin person to check for errors in research.gov?
I actually don't know that question right off the top of my head. So PIs and other authorized users and AORs can see the warnings and errors for a proposal. But if you're suggesting an admin, so these admins to me mean someone that might be granting roles at your institution. I don't think so, but is it possible, Jeremy, for me to table that question and get back to this group?
It's an anonymous attendee, but so we don't know who asked it, but we can add that to our list of FAQs that we can put out there.
Okay, and another suggestion for this anonymous attendee is you can call IT Help Central and we'll make sure we track that question and we can answer that.
Thank you. Okay, we had a number of questions, and I know you discussed this during the presentation on margins, but perhaps you can kind of just cover this again and talk about what is being checked in the margins within those 1-inch margins around the documents, just to make sure that everybody's on the same page with that.
Sure. So as of today, it is November 2022, we have temporarily suppressed the checks for margins. So we are not checking for those. We're not displaying any error messages or warning messages. In the past, when they were enabled, if you have a P or a G, in general, it will not trigger the warnings or errors as long as your document was pre-set up with 1-inch margins on each side. So in general, no, those would not trigger those. Another example, in case you were in the round where margins were turned on, sometimes we saw margin errors being triggered because people had images, hidden images that were outside the boundaries of the 1-inch, and that might trigger an error. But as of today, we have suppressed the margin errors.
Okay. Next question is asking, if on the cover page, if you submitted your proposal as a single research institution, can you switch it to a collaborative type institution after the proposal has been created?
Unfortunately, no. So if you remember, when you create a proposal, there was a series of 4 questions, and it is listed in the 4th question, where if you are a collaborator or not, and whether or not you're the lead or not. Unfortunately, you cannot switch the answers to that question after the proposal is created. You would have to start a new temporary proposal. It's inconvenient, but the trade-off is that the compliance checks we do on that proposal is very different depending if you're collaborative or not. So we really depend on people to have those questions as accurate as possible. So the short answer is no, you cannot switch between yes, collaborative or no, or even switching between lead or non-lead after the proposal was created.
Okay, next question is asking whether supplemental funding requests can be generated by the AOR, or will that also be by the PI?
I believe supplemental funding requests can only be initiated by the PIs. I'm checking with my team to see. Okay, all right.
That's right. Okay, so this is asking about the budget page. Can it be made clearer when there are subawards? A way to clearly see that the first 25,000 was applied to the MTDC base would be helpful. Somebody's manually calculating. Does that sound right to you?
I would need more information on that. I do know that when there are sub-organizations and they have a budget, that budget does show on the Prime's budget. But subawards, people can do those differently. So maybe I just don't understand the question, but I highly recommend this person to just contact me directly or contact IT Up Central, and we can see if we can figure that out.
Okay. So this next question is about Science CV, which is not an NSF system, but one in which we do use, or our investigators use. And we got a lot of questions about the new requirement, or the pending requirement, the requirement that goes into effect at the end of January of 2023. For certification of the biographical sketch and current and pending support prior to by the senior personnel. And I answered a lot of those questions in the Q&A, and actually the session that is happening after this one will go into a lot more detail about this requirement, which requires senior personnel. So the question is, will community partners and other non-academic investigators also be required to create bios and current and pending support in Science CV if they are senior personnel? The answer to that is, well, it's a two-part answer. The first is, if you are senior personnel on the project, you do need to have biographical sketch and current and pending support. The requirement to use Science CV for the creation of those documents does not go into effect until October of 2023. So you will be, the senior personnel will be required to certify that those documents are current, accurate, and complete. But until October of 2023, they will be able to do that in either Science CV or in the NSF fillable formats, which will which are on our website, and new formats will be available as well coming soon. So I hope that answers your question, and I would recommend that you attend the next session, which starts at 3 p.m. Eastern time, to learn a little bit more about that requirement. Let's see. Next question is about a budget page, months for personnel. And it's the question says, since you cannot select the type of month, is there a plan to update the printed view of the budget from showing all the months as calendar months with empty academic and summer columns to just having one column for months?
I'm looking towards my team. We haven't received a requirement. I know the issue that you describe where, in FastLane, there was a distinction between the months, but in Research.gov, there's not. I don't think there is anything coming soon to change how the printed view would work. So I'm looking at my team. I mean, we can, but I have not heard any requirements that we would be doing that soon. Kevin and Rama, do you have any input on that?
I don't have any, Stephanie. Sorry.
Okay. So Jeremy, basically, if policy says we can change it, we will change it.
Okay, we'll keep going then. The next question is asking, when will a copy clone feature go live?
So at this time, we do not have plans to implement a copy feature. I'm assuming this means copying an in-progress proposal to a new one. I would put that in the feedback as something you might want to see. I think it would be challenging to try to do that because unless it's the same solicitation, it would be difficult to copy a proposal to a different solicitation because requirements change. So I think that would be an interesting feature to entertain, but it would be challenging to do.
Okay. Let's see. Can the research administrator contact the program officer at NSF? Absolutely. Yes. If you have a question about the program, you may contact, there's not a prohibition. We say ask early, ask often. So we do want to hear from you. We want to make sure that what you're proposing is correct and fits and aligns with the program. But again, it depends on what your question is. So if you have a technical question about, creating a proposal in Research.gov, I would not contact the program officer. You want to get in touch with the NSF Help Desk. But if you have a question that is relevant to the proposal and what is being planned in the proposal, then yes, the Cognizant program officer is the best person to speak with. And all of our contact information is available on the NSF website. And if you're responding to a specific program solicitation, there is always contact information for the Cognizant program officers within that funding opportunity. Okay, next question is, will you be able to see collaborative proposal information or just what you submitted? I'm assuming this is a question asking about separately submitted collaborative proposals.
Yes, that's what I'm assuming too. I am pausing to see if Rama or Kevin know the answers to this. We can come back to it if you need to collaborate with someone else. Kevin or Rama. I actually don't know the answer to that.
Yeah, I don't either.
Okay.
Rama, can you ping your team and then we can answer that at the end?
Okay. Let's see. Next question is, where in the pending entry should this proposal be placed? We have seen it at the end of the title, but also in the overlap spot with no overlap information. Okay. I think we might need a little bit more information on this in terms of which system you're using, whether you're using Science CV or whether you're using the fillable format. Again, if you have questions, you may submit them. If they're policy questions, and this is one, you can send them to policy@nsf.gov. And you want to please be able to give us as much information as possible so that we can answer your question or direct you to the most appropriate place or person to answer that question. Next question says, can you please clarify the sharing function? Can an OAU, other authorized user, be designated without checking the submit to AOR box?
Yes, so you can designate an OAU without sharing the proposal with the AOR. So I mean, you can think of it as OAU as a particular person that you want to have access to that proposal. Perhaps it's a student of the PI that's working on it. So that's one individual that can have access to the proposal. It is completely separate from the sharing piece. So you can share to the AOR people, the group, but that sends it out to, everyone that has that role. OAUs are for specific people who may or may not be in the AOR office. And let's see, should you hold off on I don't quite understand the second question. In other words, hold off on submitting to AOR until submission. I think think I answered your question that you can have OAUs assigned without sharing it. You don't have to do them in order.
Okay. When the next question says, when the proposed project has no postdoc support plan, should a statement to that be effect uploaded in place of the postdocs? No, so you're only required to include a postdoc mentoring plan if there is if there are funds on the postdoc line in the budget. So the Research.gov will not be checking for that plan unless you have funds on the budget for it. So you don't need to upload anything extra for that if you're not requesting postdoc support. Next question is, in case there is an issue of overlapping, this is talking about current and pending support, I believe. Can this have an impact on the PI's future submission of NSF proposals? Well, I'm not going to be able to answer that question because it's really going to depend on what the situation is. Likely not, but there's not enough information here to be able to answer that question. Let's see. The next person says that she's the anonymous user who asked about checking for errors. I'm a grants manager responsible for completing forms in Research.gov. And the Office of Sponsored Programs was annoyed that we said it was ready to submit when they could see we had an error, but she could not. Is there a way for her to see the error? And if not, this is an area of improvement that she's asking for.
Thank you.
Does it matter if I have extra pages in the budget section? If you're talking about the budget justification section, yes, you can't have extra pages. I'm assuming that's what they're asking about, but I don't know. Stephanie, do you have any other idea what they could be asking for that question?
I don't know. Budget justification, I'm looking at the page right now. I don't know if budget justification has a page limit, but whatever.
The budget justification has a page limit. I didn't know what else they could be referring to.
I don't know.
Okay. Well, if you have more information, please let us know. Okay. Let's see. If fillable forms cause so many issues with errors, why even have fillable forms at all? This is not really a question that we're going to get into in this session, so we're going to keep moving on. We're going to like to try and keep these a lot of these questions specifically about proposal submission modernization. So I'm not going to be able to answer a lot of these policy related questions. It's getting a little bit off topic with questions about cost sharing. So if you have a specific question like that about cost sharing, please send it to policy@nsf.gov. Let's see. Okay, if no salary, this is another policy question. If you're asked if no salary is budgeted for a PI or co-PI in a grant year, is an option to delete that. You can remove somebody from the budget. Stephanie, do you want to talk about that? Being able to remove somebody from the budget if they're not requesting funds?
Stephanie, you're on mute.
Thank you. Thank you. Yes, it's quite easy to do. You can remove anybody from the budget. Just go to the budget and under senior personnel section, there is a link. It's a small link. It's not a button. So sometimes people miss it. When you click manage personnel, you have the option of completely removing someone from the budget. This will remove them from all years. So just know that. If you have someone, for example, that's taking funding in year 2, but not year 1, we want the name to still be there. That person will just take a $0 amount in year 1 and will have their budget in year 2. So that's a very easy way to remove people from the budget.
And let's also be clear that if you are removing them from the budget, you need to be describing their contributions in the facilities, equipment, and other resources section of the proposal without speaking specifically about funding, specific funding amounts for them. So you need to describe their overall contributions in the facilities, equipment, and other resources section if you're removing them from the budget. Otherwise, you would have some cost sharing issues potentially. Let's see.
Jeremy, we do have an answer from Rama about the question on the leads separately submitted proposals and what they can see. And Rama, can you help us out?
Yeah, sure. So basically the lead cannot access the non-lead proposals, and the non-lead cannot access the lead proposal on the collaborative, on the collaboration. They will only be able to see the proposal numbers. The PI will only be able to see the proposal number of the non-lead. That's it. Does that answer the question, Stephanie?
When you say access, is it to see it and edit, or both?
We'll be able only to see the proposal number.
Okay.
That's it. They won't be able to access it.
Okay.
Okay. Next question is there any indication when the email submission confirmations for collaborative proposals will be fixed?
I am not aware of an issue for emails with collaborative proposals. Let's see. So the PI is not receiving email confirmations. I would, Kirsten, I would like to get more information. If you can send me a direct message or call IT Up Central, we can take a look into that.
Great. The next question, one second. Let's see, got that one. Somebody asking about the 2-month salary rule for PI salary. Is that institutional year, fiscal year, calendar year, or grant year? NSF doesn't specify the year. It is up to the institution to define that year and apply it consistently. So that's. Why does the system insert blank pages, other personnel biographical information, and can that feature be removed?
Oh, I didn't know the system did that. I will take a look into that. That's the first time I've heard about it. Other senior personnel. I have a follow-up question on that. Is there a file there, or you have nothing there and it's printing something? So we'll take a look into that if you provide some extra information.
Okay. Next question on supplemental documentation says it seems the PIs believe they need to have a separate document in Research.gov in a collaborative proposal to list all personnel. Now, I don't believe there's a system requirement for that, but there may be funding opportunities that have specific requirements requesting additional supplementary documents. And you want to make sure that you're reading the funding opportunity carefully to see if there are requirements, because many solicitations do have additional supplementary document requirements. So please do make sure you're checking the solicitations for that. Next question is, when you download a copy of the proposal, will you be able to see all the documents from collaborative institutions if you've submitted or if you're a part of a collaborative project?
So I'm seeing some comments from people that they are confirming you can see the other proposal contents if they're sitting as a set. I'm just double checking with Rama if you think that is incorrect. Hope that answers questions. Let's see. Yes, in print entire, you can see the other people's proposal.
Okay. Just scanning here. Okay, for collaborative proposals, once they are linked, can you use this is the same question asking about, can you see everything? So we've got that. The question is, will the Q&As be available for future reference from this webinar? We are not providing the Q&As from these specific sessions, but we do have a wealth of frequently asked question documents available both in Research.gov and on the Policy Office website. Many of the questions that you're asking today, I would gather to say most of the questions and comments that you have today are reflected in those FAQs. So please do take a look at the FAQs that we have posted and that we have put in the chat during this session. Okay, I'm just seeing some comments now at this point. So let me, why don't we wrap this up? And first of all, let me thank you, Stephanie, and your team for doing a fantastic job with this session in both the presentation and the demonstration and the Q&A. Thank you all for joining us for this session today. We are going to put into the chat a link to a survey. We really appreciate your responses. We hope that your responses will help us develop modifications or changes to future conferences, make improvements to future conferences like this. So please do take the time to fill out that survey. You'll be able to view a recording of this session, including this Q&A section, on the Policy Outreach website and on our YouTube channel. That will be available in the coming weeks, and we'll let you know once it's up there. However, you can already see the first part of this session is posted with the presentation and demo that Stephanie did today. That is up and available now. As I mentioned earlier, we do have one more session of this conference this afternoon at 3 p.m. Eastern Time, and that will be a presentation highlighting the revisions to the Proposal and Award Policies and Procedures Guide. We hope to see you there, and if not, please enjoy the rest of your day. Thanks very much, everyone. Take care.